Welcome to, that was the week that was, week 19 of 2023, where I am once again joined by Vince McLeod in my pursuit of understanding the current events through the lens of the Alternative Centre. Hi Vince, how are you doing?
Hi Bob, I'm doing really well. Here in Elton, it's just starting to get into more wintry sort of temperatures, so I'm trying to stay warm, but otherwise feeling good.
And another really chilly thing that's happened last week was a dramatic drop in the prices of luxury houses globally. The first time this has happened since 2009. This seems like we have an indication here of over-tightening happening.
I think it's an indication that the economic cycle is definitely on a downturn again. Since 2009, every time there's a downturn in the economic cycle, the first sector that gets hit is usually the luxury markets of some kind, because people don't need to spend that money. People will still keep buying houses and paying rent and buying food and so on. But when it comes to luxury housing, people will tighten the belts if the interest rate goes up. So I think that's what we've seen. That's what we're seeing in the luxury house market now. And I think that's a precursor to further economic contractions.
Now, I have heard people express glee and excitement that the rich people are feeling it now. But this is not at all a perspective that the Alt Centre endorses, is it?
The alternative centre is happy to see greedy people get their comeuppance, but it's not necessarily true that everybody who's getting affected by this is greedy. But when it comes to the luxury house market, it's certainly true that a lot of people who are in that market are spending resources that could perhaps be better used on taking care of the population so that it can grow up to be more productive and healthy. That's what I'd suggest as an alt centrist in any case.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well, let us head over to Twitter now, where it seems that there is also a lot of change happening. Elon Musk last week announced that he has a new CEO, and he is thinking of transforming Twitter into a platform called X, which is the Everything app. This is an interesting move.
He's been suggesting doing this for a while. He's long telegraphed interests in controlling an everything app, which will be not only the portal to the internet, but the portal to everybody else's identification and social security numbers and so on. So he's really thinking in grandiose terms when it comes to this X app, probably even more grandiose than his plan on building a colony on Mars. But whether or not it happens remains to be seen. He's definitely got more pull than most people in the tech industry, but whether he can pull off an everything app that everybody is hooked into the same way that we're, say, Microsoft 95, Windows 95 back in the day, whether that's possible in today's market remains to be seen.
Wow, yes, it is certainly interesting. I'm finding it very interesting to watch. The other thing that's sort of in line with that is that it looks like Twitter could become the new podcasting platform with the announcements that we've had with Tucker Carlson and Don Lemon. Do you think that's a possibility?
I think it's very possible that they could use their existing presence to compete with live streaming platforms like Twitch and Rumble. I think it would be an extremely powerful move if they were to go into that field, because they would have a huge amount of traffic. Twitter's already, I think they reach 7% of the Western world's audience every single day. So 7% of the Western world checks Twitter every single day. So it's, they're very big reach, and they could definitely reach a lot more people if they had a streaming service.
Wow. Okay. Vince, we discussed last week about the good news for the arms dealers happening over in Eastern Europe. This week, they have more good news with the announcement that New Zealand has now allocated $472 million to their defense force.
I saw that Germany has also uh, declared that they're going to give Ukraine another 2.7 billion. I think it was 2.7 billion euros worth of equipment and ammunition. So everyone's ramping up their military spending right now in anticipation of World War III. I think New Zealand, they want to spend more money because there's a lot of people leaving the defence forces on account of the poor salaries, and they want to fix that while that's still possible. But I think that the main thrust of readiness is to get people ready for a potential attack on China in a year or two, which I know that our masters have been planning for a number of years now, and they might figure that the time is right to strike very soon. So that's why the defence spending is increasing.
The alt centre isn't necessarily against defending oneself, is it? But it is against war.
We're not at all against defending oneself, but we're definitely against military adventurism, because that's certainly a part of the establishment politics where they don't really consider the effect of the damage that's done on the people who have to do the fighting, which is what the alternative is more concerned with. All the alternative movements are really aimed at younger people, and these are the people who have to do the fighting. So the alternative centre is definitely in favour of peace as far as that's concerned. However, the reality is, of course, that we live in a planet which is like a very bad neighborhood full of nasty people. And so we do have to be prepared to defend ourselves at a moment's notice.
Focusing now on our upcoming election, the latest Talbot Mills poll showed that Labour has dropped 3 points. And now National still on 36, Labour on 33, means that the Maori Party no longer has its position of power.
That's right. That's if the National Act can form a government by themselves after the election. But that could be further complicated if New Zealand First gets over 5%, because it's not clear that they'd go with National, especially considering that Act appears to have ruled New Zealand First out. So I think we're going to have to wait until the election actually happens, and then probably at least one party is going to have to go back on their word when it comes to ruling out people, because there's just not enough possible combinations for a government to be formed otherwise.
There is one other danger that nobody's really speaking about too much yet, but that is that there are a lot of smaller right-wing parties popping up.
The smaller right-wing parties could easily swing the election back to Labour. You see that the New Democracy Party is polling at about 1.5%. That's not much by itself, but if you add that to the votes from the New Freedoms New Zealand coalition, who just absorbed another couple of parties today, they could easily get 1.5% as well. And that would be 3% that would not be represented in Parliament by the centre-right seats. So, yeah, the smaller right-wing parties could easily lose the election for the right. But that's also true of the left. If Top got 3 or 4%, that could also be decisive, and it could lose the election for Labour. So, unfortunately, that's just the realities of our ridiculous system with our 5% threshold. But it does mean that we can't really tell what the negotiation is going to be like until we see the election results.
Trump had an amazing interview and said some incredible things. Also said,
I want everybody to stop dying. They're dying. Russians and Ukrainians. I want them to stop dying. And I'll have that done. I'll have that done in 24 hours. I'll have it done. You need the power of the presidency to do it.
Now, this is probably just Trump speak, isn't it?
Probably is, but it's certainly true that Trump is the only actor in the American political scene who's even willing to talk about peace. No one else has even mentioned a peace deal on the American side. No one speaks about a peace deal on the European side. So Trump would be the only real peacemaker in the entire Western world at the moment. He's mostly concerned about just people killing each other. He was asked which side he wanted to win, and he said, which is the reasonable alternative centrist perspective, in my opinion, that it's not so much about cheering for one side to win as just a cessation of hostilities so that fewer people are being killed. That would be the definite winning outcome. Now, when Trump says this, he appeals greatly to the anti-war nationalists who are becoming more and more numerous. and he draws a line between himself and the pro-war globalists, who have also been very numerous since at least the George Bush administration, George W. Bush. So I think it's a sign that the nationalist side is further growing in strength.
I thought it was very telling that he said, you need the power of the American presidency to end this war.
It is very telling, and I think he's afraid that China might move in and become the peacemaker in this conflict. And if they did, they would usurp America as the real initiative holders of world politics. So I think he's got half a mind on that when he says that he wants peace in Ukraine.
Well, Vince, we've come to the end of our time and the end of the week. And what a week that was.
Yeah, cheers, Bob. It was a really interesting week. I think it's going to get even crazier still. So stay tuned for next week.
The alt centre are clown world's good guys. They don't fit into boxes neatly enough to be someone else's tools.